right, people, we're back into the information or the conversation from the break on the number one forum for Crimson Tide football news, in my own words. Yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama. Bama kicks off spring ball in Tuscaloosa on Friday, and this brings us into this topic of conversation, the 5 most crucial, critical positions to open spring ball for Bama. I mentioned this to start the show. This is where we get a first-hand look of the coaches, the players, as Alabama begins its journey back to, or its push back to, the national championship game to try and finish the job, to try and win the college football playoff trophy here. So 5 most critical, crucial positions here for Alabama. And we start things off at number 1. It's self-explanatory. It's the offensive line. Offensive line has to be right this season, has to be better this season. It brought over Doug Marrone last year from the NFL. It was not a fit. Marrone didn't work. It was up and down. It was inconsistency all year. You didn't know who the center was until week 12. Right tackle was an absolute dumpster fire. Right guard at times was up and down. It was so much inconsistency on the offensive line. And I think the biggest thing was to go from winning the Joe Moore Award with Kyle Flood in 2020, having Mac Jones only sacked 13 times, to having Bryce Young get dropped to the ground 39 times and not even being a finalist for the Joe Moore Award. That rubbed Saban the wrong way. That was something that Saban did not like to see. So having that physical, that rough rider, that tough, that dog mentality, even from the offensive line standpoint, Coach Saban wants to get back to. And for you as Alabama fans, the question you have is Eric Wolford the guy? Is this the guy to get this program back to, from an offensive line perspective, what we want to see from it? And I think he is. When you look at what he did with Kentucky, with guys like Dare Rosenthal and Darren Kennard and the guys on that Kentucky offensive line being Joe Moore Award finalists, that's a big deal. He is highly respected in the Southeastern Conference for what he does. I think he is going to take this offensive line, make it better, make it more intense, make it a more dominant group, dominant unit here. And according to people that I've already had conversations with, connected within the program, the guys already seem to like him. That they love the energy, they love the feistiness he has, they love the attention to detail, the techniques he is bringing to the table. So there's already starting to be an attitude of they really like, the players really like what Coach Wolford is bringing here to the table. Now, of course, in the first topic, I mentioned my projected 5 starting offensive linemen with the likes of Amari Kite, Javion Cohan, Seth McLaughlin, Emil Ekiyor, and Damian George at right tackle there. And this is not a group that will be set in stone. This is just kind of a projection to begin spring ball. Coach Saban normally has his older guys, his experienced guys to start spring ball, but that doesn't mean that's going to be the 5 guys. We could very well see a J.C. Latham take over. We could very well see a Tommy Brockermeyer rise and take over. I mean, at that center position, Darian Dalcourt is still there. Can he get back healthy and find his way somewhere in here? So expect a lot of fluctuation, expect a lot of moving pieces, but the main thing is, can you get 5 guys on the field consistently that overwhelm the opposition, that impose its will on the opposition? That's the main thing. And I feel like Wolford can do that. This offensive line can be back right. But it's the number 1 group that's crucial here for the success of Alabama in the upcoming season starting in spring ball. Number 2, I look at the wide receiver room. And for this reason, it's who will be the player or group of players that develop that trust with Bryce Young? Who will be the guy or group of guys where when Bryce throws the football, he knows so-and-so is going to catch the ball. He's not going to drop the pigskin. Who will be a guy or a group of guys that Bryce trusts. He knows this guy is going to run the right route. He's going to break the route off correctly. He's going to know what his job is and details on the field. And Young built up that trust with Mechie, Jamison Williams, Slade Bolden. Now with this group of receivers, who is the guy or group of guys that can not only build that trust with Bryce Young, but also that trust with Coach Saban, that trust with Bill O'Brien, and that trust with Holman Wiggins as the wide receivers coach every day, doing what you're supposed to do consistently on the practice field as well as the game field. Now you've got several guys returning with Trayshawn Holden, with Thaiu Jones-Bell, with Christian Leary, with JoJo Earl, with the J.I. Hall. And then you got freshmen early enrollees for spring with Aaron Anderson and Kendrick Law. So you got Jermaine Burton in here, transfer from Georgia. So it's not like you don't have a talent. The talent is in Tuscaloosa. But who will be that player or group of players that have that buy-in? Sort of like what Julio Jones had, and Amari Cooper, and Calvin Ridley, and Judy, and Ruggs, and Devontae Smith, and Waddle. I mean, those guys had a buy-in. The moment they got on the campus, they knew what the culture was, what the expectation was, what the mindset was, and they performed the job. And they performed the role. And that was the reason why Coach Saban and the powers that be on that coaching staff and their teammates had value and trust in those respective players. So for this group of wide receivers, which one, or guys, plural, are the ones that have that trust with Bryce Young, that he's comfortable with them, but also the trust where the coaching staff as a whole comfortable with those guys on the field, because this is an unproven group. Young group, talented group, but unproven group. So this spring, it'll be fun to watch which guys develop that trust. That's number 2. Number 3 for me will be that defensive tackle position on the front line. When Alabama's been at its best defensively, it's had an unblockable, unstoppable, dominant, high motor, nasty defensive lineman smack dab in the middle of that front line. It's had that when it's been at its absolute best. And this goes back to whether you talk Marcel Darius, whether you talk Terrence Cody, whether you talk Jesse Williams, whether you talk Nick Gentry, who was underrated, but Nick Gentry used to come after people, especially in that 2011 season. When you talk Dalvin Tomlinson and Deron Payne and Quinnen Williams, as of late, the recent one, Christian Barmore. When Alabama's had that nose tackle that whipped up on everybody, that could not be blocked, that could not be neutralized, that walked a center and a guard into the quarterback's lap for a sack, that walked a center and a guard into the backfield to blow up a running back. When they've had that guy in the middle of that defensive line with that high motor, Bama's been really, really, really good. And for U.S. fans, the question is, does it have that guy? Does it have that high motor, can't be stopped, can't be blocked, can't be neutralized, can't be contained, is creating so much havoc and friction for the opposing team? Now, thankfully, Bama's got some guys here on the roster at that position. The usual names, the DJ Dales and the TM Smiths, but you got a Jamil Burrows who can play that spot, a Jamarian Latham who can play that spot. You got a Damon Payne who can play that spot. You got an Anquin Barnes who possibly can play that spot. You got a Tim Keenan III at that spot, and also a Jaheim Otis as a freshman enrollee at that spot. So there are guys on the roster that can play at that defensive tackle role. The question is, which one of these guys can emerge to become that next unstoppable, unblockable force? And it'll be something that Freddie Roach, as the defensive line coach, he's going to have to crack the code on this and find this in spring ball, because if he can find it, it's going to go a long way into Alabama's defense being that top 3 or top 5 group across the board that you want it to be as fans of the program. So that's number 3 at defensive tackle. Number 4, we're going to go to the running back room for the reason of how will the responsibilities, the carries, the roles be divided up or divided out in terms of situational football? That's the big thing. How will the responsibilities go in situational football? Because the more I watch Jahmyr Gibbs' tape, the more I'm like, this dude is more than likely at this point going to be the starting running back. I mean, I got a chance to talk to a guy that I know personally that grew up. Jahmyr Gibbs played football 5 minutes in high school, 5 minutes from his house. And the guy I was talking to was like, Steven, I watched Gibbs play his entire high school career. Guy is big time. He's elite. He's special. He is prime time. Like, this guy came to Alabama with his focus on not only being a starter, but being a Heisman Trophy, potentially Heisman Trophy winning back here. And with the skill set he brings, it's going to be very hard to deny him the opportunity to be of a number one back here on this roster. But when you look at him, when you look at Jace McClellan, that before injury, I mean, he was doing everything. He was catching the ball out of the backfield. Very good safety valve for Bryce Young. He was running the ball in between the tackles. He was showcasing that speed. He was doing all things he needed to do on the field. So you have him. You have a Trey Sanders that has he's got power. And the thing with Trey, do you make him a short yardage back on third downs? Does that become his role? I mean, it could. Does that become his role, especially with Alabama being a bit more pass happy in recent years? And then you have a Roydell Williams who could be that third down short yardage back, but he's also got speed out of the backfield. He's got shiftiness. He's got ability and he's got cutback ability and contact balance. He's got hands at the backfield as a receiver. So for the running backs, the reason why this is critical is how will the responsibilities be divvied up? How will the roles be divvied up? When it comes down to situational football, who's on the field first? When you look at first down, when you look at second and short, third and short, if it's that rare fourth and short where Saban goes, oh, well, the heck with it, go for it. You know, who is on the field in those types of in-game adjustment situations there? That's why the running back room, the running back position is going to be important to look at, crucial to look at. And so last but not least here, the defensive secondary for Alabama, but for one reason, and that's how healthy is Malachi Moore back for year number 3? If he can regain that freshman form from 2020, this could be really interesting for Bama secondary, because going back to the spring roster on RollTide.com, Daniel Wright's not there. Daniel Wright is not back for spring football, which means he is no longer with the program. He's used up the eligibility. He's gone. So with Daniel Wright no longer listed here on the roster at that dime backer spot, this is intriguing, because if you were to take DeMarco Hellams, who has the body type for the dime linebacker hybrid role anyway, because you want him playing closer to the line of scrimmage because he loves the action, he loves to hit at 6'1", 208 pounds. If you move DeMarco Hellams to dime linebacker, that opens up free safety to Malachi Moore. And if he's 100% good from the back spasms and whatnot, if he's 100% good, you put him back there at free safety and he regains that freshman form, that could be really fun watching Malachi and Jordan battle at both safety spots. Then you have a situation where U.S. fans want to see more of Malachi and Brian Branch on the field together. You would get that if Saban chooses to move DeMarco Hellams to dime linebacker and have Malachi at free safety. You would get more of Moore and Branch on the field together should that happen. There's also the situation of you can keep DeMarco Hellams at free safety. and move Malachi to that dime backer spot. That's also a suggestion. I don't really foresee that happen. I kind of see the first option more so than the second one, but it all boils down to how healthy Malachi is entering spring ball here, because Brian Branch has been outstanding in that nickel role. You know you're going to have Eli Ricks as one of the starters at corner. The other starter could be Kool-Aid McKinstry, could be Kyrie Jackson, could be Terrion Arnold. I mean, if Traquan Fagans comes in here and flips everybody on their head, oh, mama, that's going to be insane. But you've got a four-man battle here at the corner spot opposite Eli Ricks. So the secondary, going to be interesting to watch here. Crucial position, but especially if Malachi Moore is 100% healthy and you put him at free safety, that could be something really intriguing here in the fall. But starting off here, spring practice for BAMA.